Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadankitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parichana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Shri Lalita Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatharini Jayo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna and welcome you all to the online Bhagavad Gita course from ISKCON Mangalore, so level 2. Today we'll be starting the chapter 8. Yeah. So before we start chapter 8, let's do a quick recap of what we have studied until now. Right. So chapter 8 is titled as Attaining the Supreme, but let's do a quick recap of what we did from chapter 1. So one liners, anyone remembers what was discussed in chapter 1? So okay, so then let me only get started. Yeah. So chapter 1 was what? Arjuna's questions, right? Of not fighting the battle. Yeah. And then what was chapter 2? So chapter 2 is we understood that we are not the body. Yeah. We are the spirit soul. So we got that knowledge. Yeah. And then third was what? Karma yoga. And the stress was on Nishkama Karma yoga. So fourth chapter we touched upon the transcendental knowledge. Yeah. And fifth was again Karma yoga, but with knowledge. Yeah. And anyone remembers the last verse of fifth chapter? So there was a peace formula, right? Three peace formulas. No? Okay. Anyone is typing? You can type in also. So if you remember the peace formula. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Is the first one. No? He is the supreme controller, and then he is the friend of everyone. Yeah? You'll all have to remember these things, guys. Yeah? Else, say in the next level onwards, right? So you'll be facing challenges. So it is better if we start reading Bhagavad Gita seriously and then get some understanding. Yeah? Else, the further levels will be difficult. Yeah? And then the chapter 6. So chapter 6 was about Ashtanga Yoga, right? And then which is not suitable for Kali Yuga, right? So we can't do. Yes, neither we get a secluded place, nor we have that much time, right? So that's the reason for us the prescribed mantra or the sacrifice is Harinam. Yeah? And in the seventh chapter, so seventh chapter is fresh, right? So now you guys can at least tell about seventh chapter. Seventh chapter we discussed last week and yesterday's class. So anyone remembers what was it? Any points here and there will also work. Go ahead, Mataji. Rajni Mataji, go ahead.
Seventh chapter discusses about devotional services.
Hmm.
It's how it's only through devotional process that we can attain Krishna. That the process of hearing and understanding. And yesterday we dealt with the three modes, that is goodness, passion, and ignorance. And the four types of pious people: the mudha,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
the gross
Miscreants
foolish,
and then
yeah,
Dushkritinas and Sukritas.
dushkritnas, and the person with knowledge and gnani. So out of the four, the gnani is the supreme, so that he knows what is right and wrong. But end of the day, all of them will be going towards Krishna, and if they meet a proper devotee, they will also get converted to become a good devotee and reach Krishna through Krishna consciousness
Yeah, if they are guided, then yeah.
if they're
So,
guided. Yeah,
so
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just
Prabhuji, go ahead.
adding one more point, like you also studied like the one who has knowledge about the transcendental knowledge about Krishna, like we discussed yesterday. So they completely surrender unto him, and one who are involved in like
Hmm.
pleasure, enjoying pleasures, and yeah, so they don't surrender to him, like so yeah, irreligious people,
Yeah.
as said. Hare Krishna.
And then Krishna also doesn't manifest to them. Yeah? So even Krishna says that he doesn't manifest to the ones who do not have faith in him. Yeah? So, and then when we were coming to the end, right, we saw that about the devotees, right? Even the devotees at the time of death, right? So they remember the Lord. Yeah. So that was the last thing. And there were couple of jargons like Brahman, Adhyatma, Adibhuta, and all these things were being used at the end of the chapter by Lord. Yeah. So now the eighth chapter starts with that query. So Arjuna now asks, "What are those, Kim?" She starts asking. So all those seven items, yeah, and then the whole chapter goes on. The first two chapters are the questions. The next couple of verses, the Lord actually gives the explanation about those seven terms, and the eighth one, so which is the critical one, right? Remembering Krishna at the time of death. So that's a lengthier piece, yeah. So which he discusses in the subsequent uh, verses, yeah. So that is 8.5 to 8.8. He'll be covering that path, and then even at least until 8.13, right? He does that, and then he further goes in, so like the meditation, right? So how do the yogis remember Krishna, yeah, through meditation? So that is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So it's a combination of both. And then he actually goes further into the advanced devotee who are pure devotional who do pure devotional service, right? That is through bhakti. How they remember, and how things move on for them, yeah. And then he does a comparison of material and spiritual um, worlds, and at the end, so that is the rest of the section. Yeah. So basically, if we see, it will be of 5 sections. Yeah, so he'll be covering all those things. Yeah. So I'll share the PPT. Yeah. So this is the chapter. Yeah. So chapter 8 is attaining the supreme. Okay. So we'll just look at the course. What is that? Yeah. So these all things, right? So we covered in 7.1 to 7.3. This was Krishna in hearing, and then the opulence is also, right. So Krishna is the taste of water. He is the sunlight. Yeah. Everything of moon. Yeah. And then he is the fire. And all those things. Yeah. So still, those opulences will be covered in detail in coming chapters. But he gave a glimpses of it. Yeah. And then how the spiritual and material world or the energies are created by him, and then he is the maintainer of them, and he's aloof from them, and even the modes of material nature, he is the controller of it. Yeah. And he's not impacted by it, so he's called nirguna. Yeah. And so these things, right, for pious people, impious people, and then he even says that bahunam janmanam ante, right. So after many many births, one will know Vasudeva is Sarvamite. So who will know everything is Krishna. So, but so one has to take so many lives, and others who have no knowledge, they surrender to devatas to get benefits, yeah, temporary results. Yeah. But to invest long term, you'll have to follow the Bahunam Janmanam Ante, yeah, and then we'll have to do pious activities, not in this lifetime. Also, we should have done in the past. And then there are few who will not utilize this lifetime for spiritual activities. So they will again fall down to the lowest of the mankind, or maybe an animal life. Yeah. So, and then the bewilderment is due to desire and hate, right? So yesterday we saw. So the conditioning is due to this desire and hate. Yeah. So now we'll see through. So this 29 and 30, right? Whatever questions he had asked, right? So yesterday I was showing you, right? So this is, I'll tell you those things. I'll just refresh and then we'll go. So these are the sections. Yeah. These are intended properly. So I just gave you a rough idea, but this is how. 1 to 4, Krishna answers Arjuna's question. 5 to 8, remembering Krishna. 9 to 13, there is also remembering through Mishra Bhakti, and this is Kevala Bhakti, and this is comparison, and then the supremacy of devotion or in attaining the supreme. So these are couple of things. Yeah.
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just one small help. Prabhuji, if you can just explain the impersonalist meaning, because I have been reading it like many times it has appeared. So it's still not clear exactly impersonal.
Basically, Mayavadis who do not believe that the Lord has got a form. Okay.
So they don't have personality, you mean to say?
You don't believe that God has a personal form.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So these are the questions. Yeah. So now the chapter starts with Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma Purushottama. Yeah. Adibhutam Cha Kim Proktam, Adidevam Kim Muchyate. So he's asking all those things. So you said, you mentioned so many things in the last chapter, Krishna at the end. So those references will should have been captured here. Yeah. So this is from 7.29 and 30, right? So he says Brahma, Adhyatma, Adidevam, yeah, Adi Yajnam, Prayana Kale. So you use so many jargons. So what are they? Okay. So he's asking, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to actually explain on those terms. Yeah. So Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are furtive activities? This is karma. Yeah? What is material manifestations and what are the demigods? Please explain to me. how does this Lord of sacrifice live in the body? So it's about Paramatma. Yeah? And in which part does he live? Oh Madhusudana. Again, he's addressing Madhusudana to Krishna. So basically to kill the doubts. Yeah. And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So this is $1 million question. Yeah. So nobody has that question, but yes, Arjuna has the question. Okay. So these are it's been consolidated in a quick question and answer thing. Yeah. So what is what? Yeah. So Brahman. So in this context, right? So Brahman might have been used, or so basically, if you look in right here, the actual word is used as Brahma. Yeah. So Brahman is nothing but here it's Brahman. So this word at times is used in different contexts, but in this context, right, it is the indestructible living entity in the jiva, which is nothing but the soul. Yeah? So how do we reframe this? So this is from here. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Yeah? So here he says, which is undestructible. Okay. So from here, this is derived. Okay. So that's the reason in this context, Brahman is the jiva or the soul. And then the next question, yeah, is nothing but adhyatma. So this is basically the nature, okay, so which we have acquired, yeah, so by our experiences, right? So which actually govern our body. So that is adhyatma. And then karma. So again, karma has got different meanings, right? But in this case, it is puritive activities. So one who actually performs work, but he is looking for some results. Okay. So actions leading to material body. So again, karma has got different meanings, right? So one karma is reactions to actions, right? And then the others is what prescribed actions is also called karma. Yeah. So you'll have to look at the context, yeah, and then um, so this word is being used in that way. Okay. In here it is curative activities. Okay. And the next one is adibhuta, is nothing but the material nature. Yeah. So the material nature which is constantly changing. Yeah. So there is what the material energy takes birth, it grows, and then it actually uh, reproduces something, dwindles, gets aged, and then it's worn out. So these are material nature. So that is Adibhuta. Yeah. And Adi Deva. So that is a word which is being used. Yeah. Adi Deva. Okay. So he's the supreme. Okay. Of all the gods. Yeah. So this is nothing but the universal form. Okay. So the universal form, which includes all the devdas or the demigods and the different planets, that is Adi Deva. Yeah. This is we'll see through. So the Virat Purusha, or we call it, right? So this is basically for the neophytes and the impersonalists who do not believe in the form of God, right? For them, because they'll appreciate, okay, so the Lord is so powerful and all, yeah, by looking into this, yeah. And Adi Yajna, yeah. So Adi Yajna is nothing but the Paramatma, right? Or who is Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasam. We understood, right? So he is the Yajna Purusha, the Lord, right? And the same person, even if you look in, right, Arjuna asks who resides in the heart of all the living beings. So it is Paramatma. So even at times, right, the Adi Yajna, right? So even Indra is at times referred that because he is the um head of the administrators, right? So that's the reason at times he is also called the Adi Yajna. So he is also referred, but here, right, the context is and who resides, which Adi Yajna resides in all the hearts. It is Paramatma. Yeah. So these are all the questions which are being asked by Arjuna. And then how do you remember Krishna at the time of death? Practice remembrance throughout the life. So it is not possible. Yeah. So like if at all so we don't practice, and then if you feel that okay at the last moment I can remember Lord, that's not possible. So had it been so easy, then everyone could have done it. Yeah. So at the time of death, right? So basically everyone, say in the Bhagavatam, there is a description of what happens at that time. So it is very bad. So wherein she will not be able to speak, everything is choked. Yeah. So and then you have so much of body pains and all those things, and then so you're like in an ICU, yeah, and you're not able to speak, you're not able to utter, and then say all right, so all the activities are dysfunctional. So at even though you want to speak, you cannot. There will be people lamenting around you. So the situation is very bad, yeah. And then at that time, unless we have a natural tendency of the connection with the Lord, and then say we are always remembering Him, right? So unless we are in that mood, right? So we can never remember, and then we don't know when the death will come us, right? So we can't be prepared, yeah. Nor we have those siddhis, or we have those boons from other devatas, wherein we can actually decide our time. They're saying that okay, I leave my body at this time. We don't have such capabilities. So, so nor somebody will come and tell us that okay, you have got so much time. Nothing. So it can come at any time. So the best thing is to always remember Krishna and practice. So it should come in a natural way. Yeah. So to come in a natural way, we'll have to practice. Yeah. And then we are not exalted like other devotees, right? So this needs practice. Without that, so it's very difficult. So thinking that okay, chalo, I'll enjoy all throughout the life, and the last 5 years I'll do some Krishna bhakti, and then say I'll be able to remember. It's not that way. So we can't. And so because most of us think that okay, so all this, right? In general, right? The assumption is that the devotional service or getting into Krishna consciousness or reading even Bhagavad Gita, right? If you see, right, in majority of the houses, right, we all buy Bhagavad Gita. So if you in India, at least every house has a Bhagavad Gita, but in few cases they'll wrap it up in a cover or in a cloth, and then they'll say that okay, so when I'll retire, and I'll read. Yeah, one day I'll read this book, but so it is. We'll say in complete aram we'll read, but that complete aram will never come. Yeah, because by then it's a difficult thing. Yeah. So start wherever you can. Yeah. So it's not, so there is no hard and fast rule. So the more early we start, the more better. Yeah. And then it's not that at that age we can't do, but it depends upon, so what is our purva janma vasanas. Yeah. So this is what the Brahman and other things have been answered, right? So the Lord answers this. So this is indestructible. Yeah. So this we all captured in this capsule. Yeah. So wherein we had these information. Yeah. And then what is karma? The putative activities is answering them. Yeah. You see here. So what happens in our next life? Yeah. So one who eats meat, he would be big. Yeah. And then someone not following the regulative principle, he could be a dog. So that's how things move on. Yeah, the material nature takes care of it. And this one, right? So again, he actually Adibhutam, yeah, Shrayo Bhava. So here he gives, and Adi Yagno, he gives more briefing about those things. So this first four verses goes in there. And physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. The universe is cosmic form of Supreme Lord. Yeah. And I am the Lord represented as the super soul. So he is telling, he is represented as Paramatma, dwelling in heart of every embodied being. Yeah? So this particular picture has got a significance. Yeah? So we'll see in the next deck. So in this purport only, so Prabhupada says that as the caterpillar thinks, so this caterpillar turns into this butterfly, right? So it meditates and then thinks that he'll take this form, and it happens. So similarly, we should also meditate on the Lord and then go back to the Goloka. Yeah. So Lord in the fourth one, right? So these are Adi Yajna, Adi Bhuta, and Adi Devata. Yeah. So this is universal form. We actually spoken, right? And what is Adi Bhuta? So this is constantly changing. Birth, growth, sustenance, byproducts, dwindling, and death. Yeah. So why this universal form? This is for the neophytes, yeah? And even the whole universe, right? So we said 14 planets are there, right? Say the lower planets, the Patal Loka and all, right? So those are the legs, yeah, and then the head is the upper planet. So Swargalok and all those things, and the eyes are sun and moon. So that is how people come to know. Yeah. So those who cannot take up the Krishna's personal form, right? So if so they'll understand more on the basis of universal form, and then the universal form we'll see in chapter 11, right? So we'll see the whole chapter is about the universal form and then why it was shown. Yeah. And witnesses of soul, this is nothing but Adi Yagna is nothing but the super soul, yeah? Source of all source, various types of consciousness gives the individual. And then um, who understand the functions of all these manifestations of Supreme Personality of God clearly. So this is Krishna consciousness person understands that. So we have Paramatma with us. Okay. So that was basically the question and answer. And now there was another term which was used, Prayana Kale, right? So in that context. So Prayana Kale is nothing but remembering Krishna, or Prayana Kala is nothing but the time of death, the time of leaving the body. Yeah. So that's is important. Yeah. So one who remembers. So here Krishna says one who remembers him, his form at that time, right? He surely attains that. Yeah. And then even in the next verses, Krishna says that Ma Manushparan Yudhyacha. So he says that you actually remember me or meditate me and then carry on your activities. So this is the next verses. Yeah? So here it is being said that and in these things, right? So most of us may feel that okay, we'll all become Ajamilas and all those things, right? So even Ajamila, so in his uh, initial career, right? He was very pious, yeah. So, and then so because of some unforeseen scene he had seen, and then say he went into an very bad shape, and then though he was into that, right? Somehow he at least had one as a Narayana. He took the shelter of Narayana. So by some chance, yeah, and then so the Narayana name, right? So it, because he he was used to it previously also, right? So before getting into this bad shape, he used to chant it very, the names of the lords and all those things, right? He was doing it very piously. So the utterance of Narayana was very pure. That's the reason. So he was given a chance, and then though he was given a chance, he had to spend 12 years. Yeah. So he did 12 years. So he followed all the rules and regulations. He went to Haridwar, yeah, and then there he meditated upon the Lord. And so it was after that he got liberated. Yeah. So we should not think that we all will become as Ajamilas at the end of our life and then we'll actually do that. It's not possible. And so in this 8.5, right, Krishna says, so here we have Bhishma Pitama, right? Even yesterday we spoke. So Bhishma Pitama had the boon that he could leave the body at his own will. So he actually saw Lord Krishna and then he left the body. Yeah. So this 8.5 verse, Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktava kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yatinasti atra samsaya. He says that the Lord says that Antakale cha mam eva. So at the end of the life, right? So while leaving the body, right? Whosoever remembers, yeah, the Lord, okay, for him, muktva, while quitting, this kalevaram is nothing but this body. So whosoever remembers me, madbhava, my nature, yatinasti samshaya. So he'll get, so he'll be delivered by no doubt. So atra samshaya is that there is no doubt in it. Yeah. So whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. The Lord Himself says that. Yeah. And then if you actually look at in the purport, right? So remembering, right? So remembering of Krishna is not possible for the impure souls. So who have not practiced Krishna consciousness. So they have not taken up Krishna consciousness, and then for them it is very difficult. And the solution is being given. So Prabhupada writes 2 times. So in this purport, he says that the only way to remember Lord is by chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the only solution. Yeah. And then, yeah, so even this is a question, right? So anyone remembers what is this particular scene? And then who is he?
Yudhishthira Maharaj.
Correct. And then do you know the backdrop of this?
While they were in forest, they needed water.
Mm,
Pandas needed water. While collecting water, extra questions, they denied to
mm,
answer,
mm.
so they died.
Yeah. So, yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is a scene wherein, say, the Pandavas, right? First, one after the other, say they go, and then they feel very thirsty, and then this is all Yaksha. Yaksha is again Yamraj. Yeah? So he was just testing. So everyone wanted. So he said that to everyone, right? Each one of them, he said that you answer my question and then you quench your thirst. Yeah. But the situation was such that everyone wanted to quench their thirst first, and then so whosoever quenched their thirst first, right, they actually fell down, yeah, unconscious. So when so all four Pandavas, right, so they were unconscious. Then Yudhishthir Maharaj came in searching them, and then he saw that all four were unconscious. And then he heard again the Yaksha's voice, and then he said that, so you'll have to answer my question, then only you can actually quench your thirst. And then he said that if you answer it properly, then I can give you one of the Pandavas. Yeah. So there was some question answer session. Yeah. And then say, then the Yaksha asks, what is the most wonderful thing in the within the world? Okay. So there are a lot of question answers. I think those are available somewhere. So it's of a Mahabharata or somewhere. So I don't have those details, but there is a question and answer which goes on. Yeah. And in this episode, but one question is, he asks series of questions. Yeah. And to which actually Yudhishthir Maharaj, he is Dharmaraj, right? He can actually answer all those questions. He answered everything. So one of the question was, what is the most wonderful thing within this world? Okay. And then so Yudhishthir Maharaj replies, hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death every moment. Okay. So every moment there are a lot of people or the living entities which die. But a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless. Okay. And so you ask any living entity, right? He say he'll feel that okay, so he wants to be alive all the time, yeah, and he never prepares for his death. So that is the most wonderful thing in the world. So he says that. So we all know that our material, we are this is a material life, yeah, and then the nature is that everyone has to leave the body, and then this will not live forever, yeah. So everyone has to die because everyone is fully under the control of material nature. Yet everyone thinks he is independent. That whatever he likes, he can do. Yeah, and then he'll not meet the death. And then even so, if there is a death, right? So he'll feel that okay, so the neighbor has died, and then he feels that okay, so he'll be there forever. And say the scientists, right? In this day and age, they are putting efforts to make lives longer, yeah? And then even people are trying to actually, so there are scientists who are planning to actually um, work on the DNAs and all, so wherein you'll never get an age old. Yeah? So there are some rich people who are spending millions in this research, yeah? But the unfortunate thing is the person who does the research himself, he will not have lifetime. Yeah. So Prabhupada writes all these things in his Bhagavatam. He says that the scientist himself who's doing this research, right, he himself will not be present. So what he'll make others young, and then say he'll not make them die. Yeah. So that is the situation. Yeah. And then once he answers all the questions, right, Yaksha becomes happy, and then he makes all of them alive. Yeah. So that is about that. And then in the 8.6 verse, right? So the Lord says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, tajati anta kalevaram, tam tam evati kaunteya, sattat bhavam bhavitah. So whatever form one remembers at the end, right? So the person attains that. So in his next life, right? So he's allocated that thing. Yeah. So herein, right, the example of Okay, this is Bharat Maharaj example is been given. So wherein he was actually when he was made when he fell down from this cliff, he was attached to the deer, right? So and hence in his next life, right, he took the form of a deer. Yeah. So it is what I even say whatever one remembers, right? So he gets the next form. Yeah. So even here also, again Prabhupada actually says that chant Hare Krishna and remember Krishna all the time. Yeah. Okay. So that's something to take here. Yeah. So that is what he saw. So a small deer was trapped, he rescued it, and then he got attached. So his purpose was to do yajna. But so he was deviated and then so he became a deer. Yeah. So and that's the formula. Yeah. And even so at the time of death, right? So even there is an example so wherein people quote in the famous one. So there was a mill owner. Okay, he was a big mill owner. Okay, rice mill owner. So he had four sons, and then all were married. And so he was so at his last time, yeah, almost at the death time, and then he sees that all his four sons and daughter-in-laws are in front of him. Yeah, and then he quits the body, saying that so why no one is there in the mill? Okay, so he's more attached to the mill. Okay, so what will happen? So next life he could be a rat or something, right? So who will be there in the mill for his lifetime? So that's something which is just given as an example. Yeah. So that is how life goes on. Yes. And then few people only will think about their money, property. Yeah. So at the end of the life, so we should actually the other thing is even we should not have those dependencies also, right? And then we should not be too attached at the end of our life. So that's the reason after 60, right? So we shouldn't have too many complications in life, and then we should not be attached and then running here and there. So we should keep our life simple and then devoted towards Krishna. So that's the reason we had Varnashram in the past, yeah. But now things are different. And Lord Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anushmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mam Evashyasi Asamshaya. So he says, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me. So after telling those two verses, right, he says that you actually think of me and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Yeah. So this is the tip which is being given. Yeah. And then there was a question, right? And the last class also. So how do we carry out our work? So this is the answer. Yeah. And even in these verses, right? I just forgot to mention in there was a king, yeah. So wherein Kulashekara, there was a king called Kulashekara, and then he says that say he had actually said to the Lord that so he was young, so he was saying that when he's young, right, and he's healthy, so if he dies immediately, right, at his lotus feet, then he can he's healthy and then he can remember the Lord and all those things, right? He says that I can perfect my life, but if I wait for my natural death, right, I don't know, so what will happen? and then how my body would be choked up and then dismantled. So this is something which I forgot. I just remembered after seeing this. Okay. And how do we do this? This is by meditating, abhyasena. Yeah. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa. So he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, O Partha is sure to reach him. Okay, so they will be taken away by Vishnu Dutas. Yeah. So this is importance of remembering Krishna, and then how do we remember? Benefits of chanting: ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. Yeah. So this is, and then the caterpillar thing is also given here. Yeah. So Lord stresses on importance of remembering him by practice. That is what is mentioned, right? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Okay. So then we'll pitch into the next section. This is remembrance for Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Yeah? So by meditating on Krishna and his qualities or performed by practicing Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So how they can attain the Lord. Yeah. So we'll see through this. So here, right, one should meditate upon the Supreme Person and as the one who knows everything. So Kavim Puranam. Yeah? So he is the oldest of old, who knows everything, past, present, future. Yeah? As he is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest. Anusmarat. Yeah? So who is the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, who is always a person. The Lord says he has personal form. He is luminous like the sun and being transcendental is beyond the material nature. Okay. So these are also 10 items. Yeah. So attaining the supreme. Okay. So here these are the 10 ways by which you can think and meditate. So Kavi, so the knower of everything, past, present, and future. Yeah. So even we can remember in this way also oldest. So he is the oldest one we know, right? And is the controller. He's smaller than the smallest. He enters into each atom. Yeah? And then he is always a person. He is luminous like sun. Yeah. And then he's maintainer of everything. And he's beyond material conception. Yeah. So we can't actually, he's inconceivable. We cannot understand him. Yeah. So he is smaller than the small, right? He goes into an atom and then he is bigger than the biggest. So all the planets are maintained by him. Yeah? So he's inconceivable, so we can't understand him. Yeah? So so you can remember in any of these forms the Lord. Yeah? And then he even gave the other examples also in chapter 7, right? That he's while drinking the water, you can remember him as the taste of water. While looking at the sun, you can remember him as the light of the sun. Yeah. So there are so many ways you can remember the Lord. Okay. So yeah, this is for the yogis. Yeah. So what they do with yoga balena cheva. Yeah. So the yogis, right? Basically in the yoga practice, they have got all chakras. Yeah. So basically 8.9 to 10, right? So not 10, but this three verses, right? This Yoga Mishra Bhakti, right? So it is all about the chakra, the Sat chakra, this is called. They have six, and then so wherein they'll have to bring that chakra to the top in between the eyebrows, yeah. So, and then they'll have to chant the Om, and then they'll have to renounce everything, and then they'll have to fix the mind and heart on the Paramatma. Yeah. So this is yoga balina is nothing but the practice of yoga. Yeah? So one who at the time of death fixes his life air, so that is chakra. So in between the eyebrows, and by strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is for the yoga practitioners, yeah? So who actually can take this up. Yeah. So there are, yeah, you see here there are 6 chakras, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there will be 6. So one has to take all the life air to here, yeah, and then he has to remember the Lord. He has to give up. He has to do celibacy and all those things. Then, so this is how. So you'll have to fix your a time to leave the body. Yeah. So persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order life, enter into Brahman. Desiring is nothing but the effulgence. Yeah? So the impersonalist and all, right? Their agenda is to actually merge with the Brahman. Okay. So if you go on to the Brahman platform, right, what happens is you're like, at least we are in the prison house, right? So the, the material life is nothing but dukhalayam ashashvatam, right? We are in jail and then we are getting reformed. Yeah. There is a chance that the jailer someday will give us some um, release or give us some freedom, and then we can go to the outside world. Okay, it's the outside world is nothing but to go look, and then those who are spiritual, they'll go to the outside world or the spiritual world directly. But what happens to this Mayavadis and impersonalists, right? They'll be sitting on the wall of the jail. Okay, neither this side nor that side. Okay, and the next verse is, right, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement, closing all the doors. So these doors are nothing but we saw in chapter 6, right? The eyes, nose, so the sense enjoyment gates, right? So the 9 gates, they'll have to control all of them. Yeah. And the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head, one establishes himself in yoga. So you'll have to sit, you'll have to meditate such that everything is controlled, and then this goes up. After being situated in the yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letter, if one thinks of the supreme personality of Godhead and quits his body. So if you do all these things, right, and then if you live the body, yeah, so you can attain. This is for the Mishra Bhakti. Yeah? So first thing is, where will we get the time, and then where will we know that okay, our time has come, and then we can leave the body, we can force everything here, we can do all these things. At least for Kali Yuga, it's not possible. Yeah. So practice of Yoga Mishra Bhakti describes all these practices assist yogis in remembering Krishna. They are not end in themselves. Yeah. You see, Sat Chakra Yoga realizes life, and the Agnya Chakra goes here. You have to chant Om, renounce all sense gratificatory things. You have to control. And then even Pratihara is also nothing but controlling all senses, right? He touch bases that also. And then the next thing is fix your mind and heart, and then the life air goes. So this is the cycle. So if you do Ashtanga yoga, right, and then post that, so you'll have to go through all these sequence. Then only so we can get liberated. So this is the path, which is quite difficult. So in this age of Kali, it's quite impossible. Attaining the supreme thinking of Krishna while quitting the body. Yeah, same personal Brahman. So these all are nothing but the same explanation. Yeah, but for us, right, all so the paths are easy. I'll say it's not easy, but at least it's not that hard compared to them, right? So for us, right, for the devotees, it is what chanting, all joyful things, right? So chanting, do Harinam Sankirtan, do Krishna Seva, yeah, everything is visible, and then eat prasadam. Okay, so purify everything, and then remember the Lord at the time of death, and then move on. Yeah. So anyhow, so those things will come in the next pure devotional service, remembrance of Krishna Bhakti, of Krishna through Bhakti. So this is something which we'll take up in the next class. So yeah, so there are 3 sections which we can finish it off in the next section. Hare Krishna, we'll wind up for today here. So if you have not marked your attendance, please do so. Yeah. And then quizzes everyone is taking, right? I keep reminding in every class. So if you're not doing, then do it. So did all of you complete your quizzes until chapter 6 at least? Any of 7 we completed yesterday? Have you done? You can raise your digital hands. How many have you have done? No, none of you do.
Yes, Prabhuji, I have done 7.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Shiv Kumar Prabhu, you are also doing? You are done?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have done up to chapter 4.
Yeah. So kindly do it. So do it. That is good for us only. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, and then there are Bhakti Vikshas also going on, right? So you can move on. Yeah. So, okay. Anything anyone wants to clarify in today's session?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, actually, I have one doubt. Like, as Arjuna also, I think, asked Krishna, like, when one is not in position to take the name of or to remember Lord Krishna at the time of his death, then
Hmm.
let's say uh, the let's say a devotee and non-devotee both die the death wherein their are not in their control, like they
Hmm.
are not so they are not aware of the situation. So in that at that time, then both of them are not able to remember Lord, then what would happen in that case?
So in that case, right? So you have your portly, right? You have your karma portly. So that will be looked up. Yeah? So suppose it was an in your case, as you're saying, right? Something did not support, or it was a bad situation. Right? So in that case, right? So the devotee has spent all his life remembering the Krishna, right? And so when he goes, so so the account would be settled in that way, right? So what was our pious credit, and then what did we do? So in that case, that will come from. Okay. So if the other person was not at all pious, and then he has not done any activity, right? So you can think of his situation, and then the other person who is a devotee and then who has devoted all his life, right? He'll always be in a better place. Okay.
Okay, but Prabhuji, again, we saw that the Bharat Maharaj was taking, like, at last also, like, um,
Hmm.
he had a lot of affection for the deer. So we are saying, like,
But he
whatever,
had
but
time to think of the deer only, right? So the problem was he became more attached, and then he stopped doing, even if he was performing yagnas, right? So he was more distracted towards the deer. So his business was, why did he renounce his life? Why did he give up his kingdom, and all, right? To renounce, right? And then he didn't do that objective. He didn't meet the objective. So rather, he got attracted to something else. Yeah.
So you mean to say like it's a combination like what of a person thinks at the time of death plus what are his like you said the share that he has of his karma like pious activity. So these both of these affect.
Most of the thing, those are exceptional. So you are asking about exceptional stuff. Yeah. So, but say
Okay.
in reality, right? So you tell me, say, how many of them are say leaving the body? So does any of them at least know that they'll have to actually remember the Lord? None of them. So everyone would be busy with the material life. Yeah. So this land, that house, this money, this tijori. Yeah. So you take care of this. Yeah. So people are more into that. So at least we shouldn't be in that category, bro. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So we'll wind up for today. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.